And the other thing to remember is that with this dynamic, usually that person has really strong separation anxiety. It's one of the reasons they're so controlling is they get separation anxiety. And they'll accuse you of things like, you're going to leave me, aren't you? I know you're going to leave me. And they throw it in your face like, you're going to leave me, or just leave me, or I'm going to leave you. And it's not that
or you're going to divorce me.
Yes, I think you've heard that a few times before.
Oh, yeah.
How many times do you think you've heard that? You've been married for a little over a year?
1,000.
1,000 times. You're going to leave me. I know you're going to leave me because
you're divorced. I mean, the divorce word, until I said the divorce was not allowed, zero tolerance for that. It's now you're going to leave me. You're going to call where you need to call an attorney. How are we going to do this? How are we going to separate? It's always, and I keep reassuring him. Well, for a while I was reassuring him in the incorrect way. I was like, whatever, okay, say what you're going to say. Or even sometimes I'm just like, sounds good to me. But now the way I because I just didn't know, I mean, it's like nothing would be heard. And now when he gets like that, I have to leave. And then when he comes back, when I come back, when I leave, I say, just to let you know, I'll be back in an hour, or I'll be, Johnny and I will be back we'll be back whenever, in a little bit. We're always coming back to you. We love you. And we leave and we come back. And so with that reassurance, that helps him. Or if he leaves and he comes back, we stand in front of him and say, just to let you know, we're always here for you. We're always going to be here for you. We love you. We're never going to leave you. And that reassures him. But before, I was reassuring him in the wrong way.
Good job. Good job. Right. And it's a two-part message. I'm here for you. I love you. And I have standards for your behavior. It's a both. And that's what you're doing well now is I love you, we're with you, and you get to act well.
Yeah, but in a normal thought process, people would be looking at that going, are you crazy? No, you don't think about that. Does that make sense? You don't think to tell them, to reassure them, because you are prone to go, yeah, whatever, okay, fine, we'll do that way, or no, we're not going to do that. I mean, so it's a wrong reaction, except when you're supposed to say, okay, I'm leaving, and I'll be back in an hour, and, we love you, and we will be back.
Right, because, again, it goes back to the contradiction in their, what we call affect. They look like they're angry. So it would be normal to tell them, like, to shut up. It'd be normal to want to fight back, would be the normal reaction to a person who is verbally attacking you. That's the normal kind of thing. But they're not actually, even though their mouth is verbally attacking you, that's what their mouth is doing, what's underneath it is anxiety. So when you say we're back in an hour, you're speaking to the correct part of the person that's broken right then. You're speaking to the correct thing. You're correcting the root of the problem. It's perfect. Instead of being out there on the wrong branch, going, how come this doesn't work?
Yeah, but you don't normally think that of that as a reaction. You really need someone to teach you that, because that's not normal.
Yeah. You brought this up already, but a lot of times their confidence is so bad that they will do things to self-sabotage the relationship and almost force you to leave them or invite you to leave them, like your husband does. I know you're going to leave me, you're going to divorce me, because his belief is that he's not lovable, and then he acts like a jerk, so he acts unlovable. And so by changing what you're doing and how you're responding to him, in time, he will actually behave like the lovable person that he is, and he will begin to be aligned with that, and his behavior will change. So, okay, so we've built his confidence. And ready for the next step?
Yes.
Okay, so this next step is, it's, how do I want to say it? This is like a maybe. You may do this if you can. Because we talked about, we haven't gotten there yet, we talked about just shutting the person down, getting them off the adrenaline by interrupting it, okay? But this is like a step before that, if you can do it. And some situations you can do it, and other situations you can't do it, and you skip it. So if a person starts getting upset, if you can, it can help if you translate what is really wrong with them. Translate. Because we got to remember, they do not communicate well. They communicate kind of like a caveman with a club. They run around smashing things with their club.
I second that.
Okay? And their words are confusing because they blame you when they're actually trying to get one of their own needs met by you. And they're trying to ask you for help, but they criticize, or they blame, or they threaten. So it's confusing. So if you can translate what they need, you may be able to meet their need, and then they'll calm down. So here's an example. I remember you shared a story with me that your husband was frustrated because something about a glass of water, and he was trying to explain to you that he wanted you to move the water or handle it differently because he didn't want it to get spilled, right? Now, he didn't say it quite that clearly, but in that situation, what did he need you to know?
I'm thinking what he needed me to know was that he was concerned that the water would get spilled, and he was controlling the situation because what he really wanted me to do is not have the water where it had it.
Okay, and for that, was he trying to help you, or was he trying?
He was, but he came across so demanding and controlling and mean that at that point my communication was, "F you, I'm not moving the water."
Okay, exactly.
And really, all he really needed to say was, "I don't feel comfortable with the water there. May we put it over here?"
Right, but that would be what a normal person would do.
Yes, and that's what I was wanting him, or thinking he was communicating, and in reality he was communicating, "Don't have the water there. It's stupid to have the water. You're so stupid to have the water there." And then I ended up spilling the water, and maybe it was on purpose in some weird sense, but the reality was it wasn't really on purpose, but it happened, and it spilled everywhere, and I'm like, it's just water, and he's like, "It's wet, it's all over the carpet," and it was just water.
Right. So exactly, okay, so he's trying to help the situation. You get that? He's trying to help make sure the water doesn't get spilled, but the way he does it is controlling.
And the way that I handle it and heard it, I didn't handle it correctly and hear it. So
exactly, which we needed as an example. So it's perfect that happened. Otherwise, we wouldn't have an example. Let me give you another example that I have heard about. So we all have different people in our lives that have the same dynamic, and I have some people in my life too. And there was a time when my own father was very sick in the hospital, and we thought he could die any day, and he didn't have a will or a trust or anything, and we didn't have time to go figure out like an estate plan or attorney and make an appointment and do all that. So I grabbed mine, and I, on the computer, took out my name and put in my dad's name, and then found out from him what he wanted, and took a notary to where he was and got that handled for him according to his wishes. And then when I mentioned that to somebody that cares about me, he said some kind of a quote, and I don't know the quote, but it basically said, anybody that tries to be their own attorney is either a fool or a total idiot.
Ew.
And you sent me the quote, right? My dad could be dying anyway, and here this person that supposedly cares about me basically says you're a fool and an idiot for how you handle that. Now, in my mind, I was like, somebody give me a gold star for the fact that I was like creative and resourceful to get this happen like in 10 hours or 2 hours or whatever it took me. Instead, I feel like I got like punched in the stomach.
Mhm.
Okay, but we have to translate the monster.
Yes.
The translation was, I care about you, and I want you to get the proper help that I feel like you need.
Yes.
So I'm going to do your stupid idiot. But that's not what they mean. That's what's so crazy. What they say is different than what they mean.
Yes.
So we got to start translating what they mean. And what
they're poor communicators, and they're great communicators out in the world, but to this situation, they're poor communicators.
Yes, very poor, because they get stressed the most with the people they care about the most, which is you or me in that situation. So then the adrenaline starts flowing, and then they start going off communicating the way that they do.
Yep.
And then if we go off back at them, anyway, I was so proud of myself, because normally I would have like complained or said something mean back, and I just texted back and said, thank you for your help. I said, thank you.
Yeah, but if you would have gotten into it, let's be quite honest, if you would have gotten into it, it could have been a back and forth thing.
It totally could have been. It could have damaged my relationship with that person.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't want that. And honestly, I know that person well enough now. I know they really want the best for me, and they were sincerely trying to help me by telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way they communicate under stress. Abrupt, gruff. Yeah. Okay, so here's the next part is before we're going to have to talk about this, and then we'll start talking about how to interrupt the adrenaline.
Yeah.
But when they need something, like they're trying to help or they need something that can happen as well is their need may or may not be reasonable. So sometimes people will need something where the other person has to say no.
Yeah.
And then you see what happens. So here's an example. Like I know someone that was married to someone, and he was the best man of his best friend. And so what was it? The bachelor party, I guess, was in Las Vegas, and the bachelor group ended up going to like a topless place where there were women without their tops on for the bachelor party. And this person's wife learned of that and was so angry that she said, if you go to his wedding and stand up there as his best man, I will divorce you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it wasn't enough that she could just be mad that they were at the topless bar, which, she can feel that way. But in order to be okay about it, she had to then stop him from being in the wedding. And the wedding is not a risky thing for her. Does that make sense? A wedding is a wedding where little children attend. So sometimes, just like the contradictory emotions, sometimes these people have contradictory expectations. You messed up with the bachelor party, therefore there's no wedding. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they don't go together. Another one I remember is, another example is that husband-wife, the wife was going to go visit the grandkids. And the husband was like, if you leave me for the week or whatever and go, because he couldn't go, I will divorce you. And so they don't fit. Sometimes the needs are not reasonable. Like, I need you to stay home, spend all your time with me, not go anywhere, not have any friends, not do anything for yourself, and not have your own life, and this is what I need because I'm so insecure.